Welcome back to the HerbRally Podcast. Today I'm very excited to have on Tad Hargrave, very well known for his website, Marketing for Hippies. You're in the right place, Tad. We got an audience full of hippies. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Smoking herbal blends. We need some mullein and some kush, my brethren. While listening to HerbRally Podcast again. Herbalism at its finest with Mason Hutchinson. Yeah.
Well, I like to start things off by just getting to know you a little bit more. You know, pre-show, I was listening to a lot of different podcast episodes with you featured in it, but perhaps some of the HerbRally audience doesn't know who you are yet. So give us a bit of background. Were you a hippie? How'd you become a hippie? And then how'd you get into this whole marketing thing?
Well, I suppose my hippie cred begins with my mom being a homeopathic medicine dealer.
Okay. Dealer.
Distributor, whatever, in Edmonton, and went to Waldorf school, so grade 6, arts high school. And so, yeah, there's that sort of hippie background for me. And then I got into marketing and sales, worked for a franchise of Tony Robbins doing sales. And it was, I learned some wonderful stuff, but a lot of terrible, pushy stuff. And then had to spend about a decade unpacking that and trying to figure out what had happened there and why was that stuff so seductive and why didn't it work, and why did it feel so terrible, and was there any other way to do it? And from those wranglings, Marketing for Hippies was born.
There you go. Yeah, I was trying to think of the word, you know, when you have two different words that seem kind of juxtaposed next to each other, they seem kind of awkward. Is that kind of an oxymoron, Marketing for Hippies?
It is. Yeah, that was a joke that I would say. My business, I used to call it Radical Business. The website was just tadhargrave.com, and people would say, "What do you do?" And I would joke, I said, "Marketing for Hippies." And it was a throwaway line. But then one day I just thought, I wonder if that URL is available. And it was. And so I've rolled with that ever since.
Boom. So just to give you a little bit about my background, I too was a hardcore hippie, I would say. And eventually I got a job in a marketing department for a company called, maybe you've heard of it, Mountain Rose Herbs. And then I kind of grew to love, so they would sell organic herb spices and teas in Oregon. And then I began to really love their approach to marketing because it didn't feel salesy. It didn't feel pushy. It felt just natural and fluid. And that's kind of the way I was brought up in the marketing world. I was actually subscribed to your newsletter all those years ago and knew who you were and everything. And I just really love and appreciate your approach. And that's why I think the HerbRally audience, the herbalist community, can really benefit from what you teach, because marketing doesn't have to be sleazy. So just to kind of kick things off, why do you think hippies such as ourselves have such an aversion to the word marketing, business, profit, etc.?
Well, because it's, the overall system, I don't know what you call it, this kind of cartel capitalism. I think that's one. It's just easy to see what it's doing to the world.
Yeah.
It's not that I hold communism in some higher regard. I don't. But this machine, call it what you will, but known as capitalism, is doing what it's doing. And that's, I think, fairly obvious to people. I think the other reason is we've all been on the receiving end of marketing that feels terrible. And maybe we have some analysis of how marketing often works by not just playing on insecurities, but manufacturing those insecurities out of nothing. And then selling us products, crippling us and then selling us the crutches. And we've been lied to by salespeople. So I think this all just adds up to a kind of aversion. And then if you're a hippie and you're counterculture in some way, or just even seeking culture because you can't find it anywhere, then you start to look at this dominant system. And I suppose it's easy to just lump it all together and throw the baby out with the bathwater a little bit. And there, if somebody has issues with the words profit, or I just want to just kiss their feet, that people are willing to wonder about these things and grapple with it. I don't know if I've come to any perfect solution on any of it, but there are things to wonder about profit and what is a fair profit versus, the maximum profit, and how do we share our work with other people that's respectful and still honors the other people, but also works and also, pays the bills. So these are not easy questions to grapple with, but I think, people who are hippies who are critical of the whole system. Well, money, capitalism, profit, all of that is a part of the system, certainly.
Yeah. On my for years now on my Facebook bio, I have just a quote. I don't even actually know where it comes from, but it's "He is richest whose needs are fewest." And I've always really liked the idea of minimalism, not consuming a lot, but just living that type of lifestyle. And I was just listening to on a podcast called "Mastering the Business of Yoga." It was an amazing episode, and you were talking about this whole pricing structure, about how you could feel it in your body when you know if it's too much or too little for that matter. And you were talking about the pendulum, and you could kind of go back and forth on the pricing structure. $5, $5,000, both of those don't necessarily feel too right. But you also had this quote, which I loved. You were talking about asking the right questions. And you said, "This is a good question. How can I sustain myself while being accessible to the people I care most about, while having fun in the process?" So I was going to talk to you about this later, but I think this is a great time to bring it up. But can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, so that idea come from Mark Silver, artofbusiness.com, this idea of resonant pricing. But it's the idea, I think when we're looking at pricing, there's two factors. There's the facts and then there's the feelings. And most people skip the facts because it's uncomfortable to look at, well, what's your financial situation? How much debt do you have? How much do you owe? What are your financial goals? What are your monthly expenses? All these things that, I'm not great at it myself, but if we're going to be running a business and looking at pricing, then we got to have some sense of what we're working with. And then once you have that, it's important to realize there's no formula. There's no marketing business guru who can tell you what the right price is at the end of the day. You might be able to find out what the market is willing to pay. That's fine. But ultimately, I think it comes down to you sit down, and you meditate on it, and you pick a number that you know is too low and a number that you know is too high. And as you say, like a pendulum, you just go back and forth until you find the sweet spot, until there's a still point where your whole body just relaxes. And that's what you charge. And that may change. It may change quickly because you start charging or resenting. Okay, well, now you have more information, so you may shift the price. But if you charge an amount that's too high, you're going to be off rhythm when you try to ask. And if you charge an amount that's too low, you'll resent it. Neither works. So you want to find the sweet spot where it feels good. And that includes being accessible to people. And there's a lot of ways to do the accessibility thing. Yes, you can charge a lower price, but you could also charge a high price for some, give scholarships for other people. You can do a pay what you can, or a sliding scale, or do it on a gift basis. There's a lot of different ways that you can make your work accessible. But at the end of the day, that question of how do you sustain yourself, be accessible, and have a good time, comes down to this. It's just got to feel good. Which is, I suppose, the main tagline of my work is that marketing can feel good. The business can feel good. And if it doesn't feel good, it's just a lack of imagination on our parts. There are ways we can do this where it feels good to us because we're being sustained. It can feel good to others because they're getting access to something that's meaningful. And we can have a good time in the process. So it feels good like that too. That's what I would say.
Yeah, so many good points. You were talking also about something, how if you have a relationship with somebody and it's a good one over the course of time, you're not really keeping track of who gives, who takes. It's just this beautiful, ongoing, giving, loving, nourishing relationship. And you gave an example of a friend of yours no longer was friends with someone, and then they started to recall all of these situations where, oh, they owe me this, or oh, I gave them that, and that kind of thing. And I feel like the way that we should market as a business is giving without expectation, period. Like that's the way we
Yeah.
try to run it here at HerbRally, right? Like you just want to give, and you want to love on your community. That's kind of how I see it, and it sounds like that's the way you see it.
Yeah, I would give the one proviso, which is
Yeah.
George Cow, a colleague of mine, it said, be generous with your content, but be stingy with your time.
I like that.
In that, there's stuff, I don't know, there's the online information, and that's easy to give. That's not so hard. You can give your perspective and, share all your ideas in your podcast. And it's not that any of that necessarily needs to be held back.
Sure.
But when it comes to our time, I do see a lot of hippie entrepreneurs tend to be kind of in the collapsed artist domain. They tend to make themselves very small, and they're driven by their creativity. And that's what they give is their personal time. And then they burn out. There's nothing left at the end of that. So it's easy to overgive. It's easy to just not say no. And I think as hippies, we tend to have a hard time saying no in a lot of ways. We have a hard time with limits, and we just want to, be loving and give. Well, figure out how you can do it in a way that's sustainable for you would be the thing is, and that's probably not going to be that you do work for free for everybody all the time, but that maybe, this idea, like there's the kind of gold, silver, bronze levels of things, and the higher levels is probably where they're paying you one-on-one for your work. And then the medium level is the group programs. And then the lower level might be more DIY programs. And this is another way you can be accessible is you create all these DIY things or group programs so that people who can't afford the one-on-one can still get access to help. And you can be generous with that. You can just, give away the DIY stuff to whoever you want to give it to and be generous in that way. But, I remember, a colleague of mine, Suzanne Kohlberg, rather, and she just made the point how many entrepreneurs fail because they overgive. They fail because they're giving so much to other people. And it's not that they don't know what to do to grow their business. They know exactly what they need to do, but they never have time for it, because not just in business. Oh, well, my kids need help with this, and my friend needs help with this, and this person's going through a hard time, which is beautiful, but it becomes a syndrome. It becomes a way of avoiding. It becomes this something chronic, and then you got nothing left for your own life, your own business. And remember, I did a video. I said, here's the real secret to making more money, and it's a bitter pill to swallow. And of course, it's more complicated. There's institutional forces and that make it very hard for certain communities to get ahead. And within all of that, given all of that, to me, what it comes down to is if you want to make more money, given all the limits you might have, you have to make it a priority.
Mm.
If you want to have a profitable business, that actually has to be a priority. And for so many people, just everybody else's needs are their priority, and their needs to actually save money, pay off their debt, have a somewhat profitable business. If they're really honest with themselves, it's one of the lowest priorities in their life. Literally everything else comes first, which is fine. I mean, there's no moral issue. There's no marketing hell people are going to burn in for not prioritizing their business. But, as the old adage goes, we're not punished for our sins. We're punished by them. And we will struggle always. And there's one of my favorite questions to ask people is just, do you want to have a business or do you want to have a hobby? Because those are two different things. And if you want it to be a business, it has to move up fairly significantly in the priorities, which means saying no to things. Sometimes certain volunteer commitments is like, I can't do that anymore and sustain my business. I mean, I remember for a long time, I was doing potlucks all the time. And I got to a point where I was just burning out. I didn't even want to do them anymore, but I kept doing it almost out of force of habit. Or there's certain social engagements that, if you're honest, you're half-hearted about. You don't actually want to do it. There may be certain friendships where it's like, man, that has run its course. And if you're really lit up by your business, then the space has to be carved out in your schedule for you to be investing time in, and more time than people think, of course. So
sometimes those truths they almost seem too obvious, but people don't give enough weight to it. I love that. I love that you're saying it has to be a priority. Well, yeah, but you're right. Like a lot of us just kind of brush it to the side, like it is just as a hobby. And HerbRally started out as a hobby, and then it wasn't until I set an actual goal. I said I want HerbRally to be a profitable business to support our lifestyle in 10 years. I gave myself a 10-year goal. That was allowed us to make slow and steady moves without feeling rushed or being sketchy or this or that. And that's what I always tell folks. I'm like, yeah, have the intention to make it a profitable business, but go at your own speed, have a side job or a day job during during that. So
yeah, absolutely. It's a mistake I see a lot of people make is they jump in too soon. I mean, most of us at our age, we've got friends in the restaurant industry who own a restaurant or something. And you look at them like they're mad and insane for doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
But they get like bridge financing for 3 years. They know they're not going to be profitable for 3 years. That's just built into the industry. It's going to take a while before they get back into the black, and so they have that. But when it's a herbal business or crafting or life coaching or healing, people just think it's going to be profit right away, and it does take time. And so having a part-time job and easing into these things, I've a number of times I've just looked at people and say, you need to get a job. You need to get a part-time job. And that's not failure. Yeah. The failure is you burn yourself out so completely, you'll never come back at it. It's just slowing down or readjusting your strategy and timing. Like you say, okay, I'll give myself 10 years. Some people, they're like, oh, but I need this in 2 months.
Right.
It's like, well, there's no way to get there from you.
Yeah. Yeah. And adjust as you go. And, I felt the need to supplement our income here at HerbRally. Like we're actually dog sitting on the side now. It's kind of a sweet gig, get paid to watch pets, but like, it's the cushiest job I've ever had. But, we had to adjust. We were like, to make ends meet, maybe we got to do a couple side hustles,
Totally. Yeah, and this is the business model question is, it's okay, well, does this model work? Does this generate the kind of income we need? And if not, as you say, make our needs few. Can we drop expenses? Do we need all these things that we have? Can we sell some of the stuff that we have that we don't need? And yeah, is there a side hustle? Is there something we can do that also fits our existing lifestyle? And I think about my friend Natalie Pepin. She's got a website, meetingmyancestors.com. She does a lot of traditional skills, Métis Indigenous activist from Alberta. And she wanted to live off grid. That was her dream. And so she built her own tiny house. And while she was building it, she lived in it in a tent. And she scraped by with just nothing. Why? Because she wanted that. That was her priority. It was the most important thing. I think about was a John Paul, or the hair guy, Jean Paul DeJoria, a JP Mitchell Hair Systems, whatever. Oh. He slept in his car while he built his business. He just slept in his car for years. I'm not advocating it, but there is such a thing as make hay while the sun shines, and you hustle. And then there's, okay, this business model is not currently set up to bring us income. So we develop some additional ways to get revenue. That could be a part-time job, could be another business that we're building up, could be an Airbnb, whatever it is. We got people. This is the thing. People think they need resources in order to succeed, but what you really need is resourcefulness. And that's the thing you can't teach. I can't teach hustle. And I know the hustle is not the only thing. I know that. I get it. But in the world the way it is, as unstable as it is, there is a level of resourcefulness that's needed where you just have to be able to look at what's around you and say, okay, how do we use this? I mean, I don't know if you've seen this little video, Michael Caine, the actor, talking about using the difficulty.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, it's great. He was in a play and or rehearsal, and one of the people on stage, he's angry and he kicks over a chair, but the chair blocks the door. And he called the director. He said, "I don't know what to do because the chairs block the door." And he said, "Use the difficulty." He said, if it's a drama, you break the chair. If it's a comedy, you trip over the chair. But you use the difficulty, no matter what gets thrown at you. How do we use this somehow? And even if you can use it just to give you a little advantage, the smallest advantage, you're further ahead than you would have been. But that takes a certain level of resourcefulness and not just collapsing into ourselves and giving up and oh, poor me, and taking it personally. There's Martin P. Seligman. He did this work on learned helplessness, and he came up with these 3 P's of learned helplessness. And that learned helplessness is when people just give up. And he said there's 3 things that happen. The first is it becomes personal. So this isn't just something that happened or something I couldn't do. It's me personally. I am a failure.
Yeah.
Second is that it's pervasive. People just take it, instead of it's I struggle in this one area of my life, it's my whole life. It's everywhere. And then it's permanent is the third one. This will always be there. And all 3 of those are spells that people get under. And then that kills your resourcefulness. There is no more resourcefulness. It's not you personally. This is not forever. And it's not every area of your life. It's this one area of your life. That's it. And it can be fixed. When people say, well, I don't know how to do that, or I can't do that, you got to tag on that word yet at the end. I can't do it yet. I don't know how to do that yet. Right. You can learn. I mean, but that does take the resourceful spirit of being willing to keep trying, to keep asking, to keep coming back and taking another crack at it, and being flexible in the approach that is sort of like, well, okay, this business is not generating the money, so we do dog sitting on the side. And so we work at the farmer's market. So we sell some of our things. So we take a job that we'd rather not take. But for now, we're going to do it because it brings in the money and it's going to get us closer to the dream that we have, whatever it is. Yeah.
I never heard those 3 Ps. That's powerful, though. That really hit home for me. Usually a lot of these podcast episodes, I feel like we wait till the end for this kind of thing, but I think this would be valuable for the herbal community. I would love to hear you talk about what you actually offer, because I know you offer various types of coaching, mentorship. You've got a membership area. Also, you've got an amazing YouTube channel with like just tons of free content out there as well. So, by the way, I want to say this up front, dear listener. Tad did not pay me to say this or anything. In fact, I cold outreach to Tad. I don't think you've ever heard of me, ever heard of the podcast or anything like that. And so I just thought you would be a really valuable person for the herbal community to get to know. As we have already mentioned pre-show, you were on the Herbal Entrepreneur Summit. So you're familiar with the community, but I would just like to have you plug and promote what it is you offer.
Okay, sure. Well, I mean, mostly if you just go to marketingforhippies.com, sure. You find access to everything there. The main thing I would suggest people check out if they're not familiar with my work, if I'm new to them, is I have an ethical marketing starter kit. So if you go to marketingforhippies.com/starter-kit, you'll find it. And that has just a ton of stuff. So the full recording of my day-long workshop, it's distilled down to 2.5 hours of footage, plus a bunch of bonus stuff. And I'm going to be adding a few more things to it over the next little while, just to help people understand if my approach or my work is a fit. And I think that's probably the main thing to check out. I do have a membership. If people are interested, they can look at marketingforhippies.com/membership. But if you're new, I would ask that you don't join the membership right away. Check out my stuff. Just no point in joining if it's not a fit for either of us. So that's my plug.
That's great. Yeah, it sounds like a lot of like your mission, well, not mission, but the thesis of a lot of your work is around your niche. And like you said, if it's not a good fit for them or vice versa, that would not be your ideal client anyways.
No, that's called the nightmare.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I would love to chat a little bit about your philosophy on marketing. And I know I want to say you coined this term, perhaps you didn't, but there's this concept called point of view marketing, which again, dear listener, check out Tad's YouTube channel. You have full playlists, multiple playlists on this concept with lots of videos inside. So maybe you could share, like, say, the island boat metaphor and what overall point of view marketing is.
Sure. I don't know if I coined it. The first time I came across it was a woman, Lois Kelly, who wrote the foreword to my book, Point of View Marketing. And I don't know if she called it that, but she talked about point of view in the context of word of mouth marketing. And it was one of those things that when I read it, I thought, how is everybody not talking about this? And so there's that. Then a colleague of mine, Bill Barron, he had this metaphor that I loved, where he talks about your ideal client. If you imagine they're on island A and they want to be on island B. So island A is some pain that they're in. They got symptoms they don't like. They want to be on island B where there's some result that they're craving. And your business is like a boat that could take them from one island to another. And I was teaching that one time, gosh, I can't remember where, maybe Toronto, but Kitchener, Windsor. But somebody said, what I love about that metaphor is that there's a lot of ways to get from island A to B. He was expanding on the metaphor. I looked at it and I thought, that's a really true thing. You know, if you are unhealthy and you want to be healthy and the boat is being a nutritionist, well, then there's Ayurvedic, macrobiotic, vegan, raw vegan, keto, paleo, et cetera. It's carnivore, et cetera. So there's a lot of different approaches to the same boat, to building a boat. There's a lot of different approaches to making a journey. And I realized that this was so much of why we buy from people is because we really like their approach to the work. It's not so much marketing is just, hey, do you have this problem? Then here's a guarantee and buy. But the challenge is then, of course, you can get clients that are really not fit, that don't really understand what the work is, or if you have a product, they don't understand everything that's gone into the product. They don't understand the process by which it was made and the philosophy which guided it. So I just became convinced increasingly over the years that, well, here's an example. If you imagine there's a workshop and it's on a topic that you're struggling with. So, for all the listeners, think about some issue that's really hot button for you right now. It's very painful. And I say, there's a workshop in your town tonight on that issue with the best person I could recommend. And you say, okay, I like what Tad had to say. I'll check it out. And you go, and sure enough, you walk there and there's the poster on the door, and it's exactly, it just names your issue exactly as you're experiencing it. And you think, okay, well, this is relevant to me. I'm in the right room. Then the presenter gets up and they start sharing their approach or their philosophy to handling it. And it's fucking terrible. It's the worst workshop you've ever been. I mean, the point of view is asinine. It's easily disprovable. It's just so awful. But then at the end, when they do the pitch, it's a smooth pitch, man. It is well thought out. That offer has a very strong guarantee. And you're sitting there not buying. It doesn't matter how good that pitch is. You're not going to buy it. But if we flip it and say you go to the workshop and it's the best thing you've ever been to, and oh my God, they're making so much sense of your issue and you've never heard it so clear, and suddenly you see why you've been struggling for so long. And then the pitch is a bit of a shambles. They're not that clear and lucid. The truth is, if you were really hurting, you might still go up to them and say, hey, can I hire you? Do you work? If the pain was bad enough and the point of view was good enough. So now I'm not commending doing a terrible pitch. But what I am suggesting is people put the emphasis in the wrong place. They put it on the pitch and not the point of view. So if they don't buy the concept, they're not going to buy the course. If they don't buy the point of view, they're not buying the product. That comes first. And it's like, if you imagine it like the pyramid, the point of view is 99% of the pyramid. The very small tip at the top, that's your pitch. The pitch is so inconsequential in the scheme of things. Yes, come up with a good offer. Yes, practice sharing it in a way that is clear and makes sense and is compelling, and put a bit of jazz into it. Why not? But if you think that that's where people buy, you're so wrong.
Yeah.
That's not where people buy. People make the decision to buy way earlier or not buy. And if they don't, if your point of view makes no sense to them, or is confusing, the confused mind says no. Nobody gets confused and then says, where do I sign up? So if they're confused or unclear, then all that effort in the pitch is wasted. But if you're lucid and your point of view is compelling and it makes sense of their symptoms and they say, this could work. Oh my God, that makes sense. No wonder I've been struggling so long because of that. If you can put that together, then your pitch, if you have a good pitch too, it becomes a real graceful transition. The people for whom it's a fit, who resonate with your point of view, are likely to sign up.
I want to say the pitch part of that equation might be the sticking point for most of us hippies out there. I feel like that's the part where the actual selling happens, and I struggle with that. I'm not good at it. I feel like I'm good at the other portion. Do you have any tips or tricks on how to improve the pitch portion of that and change your mindset around it? I hear what you're saying though, because what you're doing is what we're out here doing is we're selling a valuable product to our community, and it's good. It's a value exchange there, but still, it's that pitch part that's so difficult.
Yeah, there's a few thoughts on this. One, so if you go to marketingforhippies.com/steps, you'll see there's a pyramid, these 5 levels, and that's where you'll find a bunch of the free point of view stuff too.
Is that ethics on the bottom, if I'm recalling correctly? Did I get that
exactly.
Right? Okay, yeah.
So we start with ethics, and the basis of ethics is that, in terms of marketing, is that we go for the truth of, is this a fit? We don't go for the sale. So the point of the pitch even is not to try to get people to buy. It's just to share something. We're not trying to push it on anyone. We're just sharing it. We're saying, this is what I have. This is what it is, what it isn't, how I do it, how I don't, how much it is. We're just sharing with the intention to go for the truth of if it's a fit, not to go for the sale. And if that isn't in place, it will feel terrible, period, always. There's no way to try to get somebody to do something covertly and feel good about that. Second is the niche. And one of the challenges is, and I think the reason the pitch feels off for people is because they're trying to be everything to everybody. And deep down, we know that. So we feel like a bit of a fraud because we are being a bit of a fraud. So oh yes, I do. I make all these products, whatever product you want, I can make it. Or yes, I can help you from any island you want to any other island. I can solve whatever problem you have. That is going to land as insincere, as hype, as a lie, or naive at best. And then that's going to feel off because we will feel this. We'll feel like, oh God, I'm just trying to, I'm posturing, I'm not being authentic. Third is the point of view thing. If we don't make the case for the point of view, then we know we're speaking to a very cold audience who just has no idea why they would want to buy. And so, then if you don't have any of those 3, you're going for the sale, trying to just reach anybody, and there's no point of view shared, it will just feel so awful. Yeah. Okay. But all of that being said, I would still submit that you can have the ethics in place, have a very clear niche, have a very clear, compelling point of view, have a great presentation around that, and you'll still feel weird about self-promotion. And there's a reason for that. So I would just, here, I'm going to say 2 things. The first one, your listeners are going to feel affirmed by. The second one, they'll hate me for. So
we're going to cancel you, Tad.
You go, man, it's too late. Get in line. So the first one is this. So I'm saying this to you, the listener. You are shitty at promoting yourself. I mean, can I get an amen?
Amen.
Amen. You're shitty at. You're no good. And that's just true. That's just the truth. And we should just start with that as a grounded meeting point, that you're just not that good at self-promotion. You want to be, you wish you were, you think you should be, but you're not. It always feels a bit awkward to promote yourself, to sell your stuff, to do the pitch. Especially to the extent that it's connected to you. If you're selling a service, sort of in particular, this can just feel so awkward because it's me. I'm selling in some way. Okay, here's the second thing. You will always be shitty at promoting yourself. That's the painful one. So, but it's true. That's not a joke. I really think you're always, the best you're ever going to be is less shitty at it. You're never going to be good at self-promotion. Self-promotion is human kryptonite. Across the board, humans are not good at self-promotion. We're terrible at it. That's not the problem. There is zero problem there. The problem is that we think we should be good at it. And this creates a kind of weird self-gaslighting, but you're just not good at self-promotion. You never will be. This seems like a really depressing comment to make, but here's the silver lining in it, or the other side. If there's kryptonite, that means there's a superpower that is attendant with it. So then if this kryptonite is self-promotion, what's the superpower? You have any guesses, Mason?
If self-promotion is the kryptonite, then what's the superpower for that? I mean, I would say probably just being your authentic self without having, like you said, the expectation that you have to be good at it. So you're kind of freed from that. I don't know.
This would be my proposal.
Yeah, please.
The human superpower is promoting other people.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I got goosebumps.
Right.
That's great.
Why do you think you got goosebumps? How does that land for you?
Well, it's just kind of funny because I was just interviewing Yulia Graves. She's a very well-known herbalist. And she also has like a lot of spiritual practice and meditation practice. And I actually was talking to her about goosebumps the other day. And I was like, what is that about? I get it all the time. I say it on the show all the time. It's kind of weird. And she's like, oh, that's just meaning something is ringing spiritually true to you in so many words. And I just, it kind of seems obvious now that you say it, because if you're doing good workout in the world, you shouldn't have to, like, I heard you say this on some YouTube video or maybe a different interview. You don't give yourself the title of guru or this or that title. You let your community do it for you. And in fact, my herbal mentor, Howie Brownstein, says, when people ask him, when do you get to call yourself an herbalist? He says, it's when the community comes to you because they know you as an herbalist. Like, you're not out there, creating this like, oh, I'm this title or that title. It's the community. And I guess part of it is HerbRally's whole thing. I mean, we started out as an herbalism events listing website. Our whole goal with HerbRally is to promote other herbalists. So I guess that made me feel kind of good because I'm like out here trying to promote all the herbalists under the sun, which I actually was going to talk to you about. That's kind of a different story. I'm not niching down too hard, but you know what I mean? So yeah, it just felt good. I feel like we're doing a great job promoting other herbalists. But at the same time, I think it just resonated with me so much. You're right. Let the community do it.
Hey, yeah, it's my friend Chris calls them truth bumps.
That's cool.
But yeah, so if the superpower, human superpower, is promoting other people, then what does that turn marketing into? It means marketing is about making it easier for the people who love you to share your work. Yeah. So so to get very nuts and bolts and practical on this, let's say you go to a networking event and you know that at that networking event, there'll be good contacts for your herbalism business. And you're like, oh, this would be great. Here's what you do. First of all, don't go alone. Go with a friend of yours who loves you in your business. And maybe you like them in their business, get a colleague, and you go and you spend the night networking for them and they network for you. This instantly feels better to everybody. Because if I'm at a networking event and I say, oh my God, this is my friend Mason, he's the fucking man. Yeah. Mason's, he's got this podcast, he's always lifting up other people. You haven't met Mason? You got to meet Mason. He's the best. Oh, you two have to work together. I can't. Okay, this is my dream. You two are going to work together. It's going to be great. It's going to be fantastic. And then I walk away, right? That's cool. Yeah. There's nothing weird about that. This happens all the time. But if I did it for myself, if I was like, hey, good to meet you. Hey, we haven't met. I can't believe we haven't met. I'm so fucking awesome. I'm the best. That's what I do. I'm always doing this good work in the world. We have to work together sometime. I said there's an old Scottish Gaelic word for this kind of behavior. It's douchebag.
I was just going to say. I was just going to say that. I swear that.
That's how it comes across,
Yeah.
this kind of self-promotion. But so you do it that way. And then maybe you go up to the host of the party if you are alone and you say, look, and the host say, oh, how's it going? Say, oh, thanks so much. I'm having a great time. And you say, I would really love to connect with, and you name the kind of people who would be good connections for you. It's like, do you know anyone here? And then they go introduce you. If you do an event and if you're a musician, it's a way better deal instead of you having to pitch your CDs. The host, you're doing a house concert and the host gets up and talks about your CDs. If other people get up and do a bit of the pitch, hey, if you're interested in buying stuff, and they can read something out. If you endorse your stuff, people question it. You got your own profit motive. But if somebody else does, they're much more open to hearing it. So, and then we think about, okay, if people love us, how do we make it easy that they could spread the word? So this comes down to, having your social media on point. Maybe you do some regular workshops that people know about. Oh, first Thursday of every month, they do a workshop at this place. Maybe you give them some cards that they can have on their fridge that give people, their friends, a discount on work, whatever it is. You create the mechanisms by which other people can spread the word about you. And then you're not fighting yourself, because you just for everybody, give it up. You're never going to feel comfortable promoting yourself. You're never going to feel at ease with that. And you're never going to be that good at it. Other people will just always be better at lifting you up than, it's, so then we just cooperate with the inevitable on that one and find ways that others can do it. I mean, this is where you could have an affiliate program. You don't need to, though. Yeah. You just try to make it easy, make it worthwhile. Make it fun for people to spread the word about you. Thank people when they spread the word. Here's another practical way to encourage this. If somebody buys from you, every single time, there should be the question, how did you hear about us? And if you can get a name, actual specific name, you email that person or call them and thank them and say, hey, that person just bought because of you. Thank you so much. That simple act of expressing gratitude or it goes a long, long way. And maybe the next time that person comes in to get something, here's a free tincture for you. I know you love this one. Go away. You've been spreading the word so well. And you take care of your people who are taking care of you. There's a lot of ways to do this. There's a series, I think it's under the point of view stuff on that steps page. There's some videos about word of mouth. Or on YouTube, I've got a word of mouth playlist, and you can check that out on different thoughts and structures on. Like here's another. This is one of my favorite word of mouth examples. So there's a guy, Alexander Ferry, in Trenton, Ontario, and he makes these wooden steins. They're made out of cherry wood, and he's got the most non-toxic adhesive you could get. It's sealed at the bottom with a beeswax and pine resin, and he emblazons insignia on them, whatever you want, and they're just, you feel like a Viking. That's and cool. I said, where do you sell these? And he said, well, beer festivals, right? And so I said, well, of course. So first of all, you're just going to a place where there's a lot of people who are probably going to be interested. But then, so that's kind of a hub situation. But then there's hubs within that hub. And he would either bring with him, or he would just find people who are really gregarious, outgoing, fun time people. And he'd just go up with a couple steins, like, would you just walk around today with these steins, bring them back by the end? So now you've got these people who are walking around with these steins, having a good time, being very loud. And everyone's going up saying, where did you get that stein? And then they say, go over there. You feel the difference between that and him walking around like, would you like to see my steins? Would you like to see it? He's going to feel so intruding into people's conversations. He's going to feel so weird about the whole thing. Or he could just sit there lonely in the booth at the back where nobody's going. Or he could send his envoys out and they just walk around with those steins and they're visually noticeable. So there's all sorts of ways we can be doing this where we don't have to be the one doing the shameless plug and pitching and pushing. And this is also why, of course, have a good sales letter. Have your copywriting down. So you just have to do it once and write it and make it clear and people can go look at it. But the idea that you have to stand in front of people and be smooth and just, it's not true. And people don't trust it when it's slick. I would much rather see somebody stand up in front and say, look, I feel awkward. I don't like talking about my work, but here's what I've got in case you're interested, and I'm happy to take any questions that you have. Here's another example of if it is just you, how you can do it in a way that feels good. I got this from Jeffrey Van Dyke, a colleague of mine. So he was speaking at a conference and he said, maybe it was his event, but he said, okay, I've got this new thing I'm working on. It's a new offer. He said, it's high end. This is not a cheap thing. Probably told them the price. And he said, if you'd like to hear more about it, I'd like to buy you lunch. Please don't come for the free lunch. I'm not just wanting to buy people lunches today, but if you're interested, go over into that part of the room or whatever. And so he got them all over there and he just did a 20-minute thing about what it is and why he cares about it so much. Gave them enough to know if they would want to learn more. And then he said, so at the end of that, he said, if you're interested, I'll be over at this table and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. And so people will come and he was just talking with them, just answering questions. But again, he's not answering the questions from the agenda of trying to get them to buy. He's answering it from just trying to help there be a mutual discernment of, is this a fit for them right now where they're at? And if there was a sense that it was a fit, he just told people at the table, it's like, if this seems like a fit, you can go over there and sign up there. So you see, there's 4 different things: stage, lunch, table, buy-in. But he breaks it up. And so at no point was there ever this, you should sign up.
Yeah.
It's just, if you're interested, go here. If you're still interested, go here. If this seems like a good fit, you can go there. Marketing is not about convincing people to do things. That's just not the point of it. The point of marketing is to help establish if it's a fit. That's it, you know?
That brings to mind when I took a herbalism apprenticeship about 12 years ago at the Columbine School of Botanical Studies in Oregon. Before you get into the class, and this isn't even a marketing tactic, this is just a practical thing to decide if there's a good fit. We actually, with the 2 teachers, it's you and the 2 teachers, and you actually meet with them for 3 hours. And you talk about all the different things that are going to happen. Would you be okay in this certain situation? Would you be okay in that situation?
Wow.
And you're just feeling each other out. And they say it's equally an interview, you for them and them for you. And again, I don't think I know it wasn't like some sort of tactic. It's just really they want to, because you're going to be investing all this time and money. They want to make sure it's a good fit.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's how it should be. Especially when it's a lot of money, a lot of time on both sides.
Yeah.
Because if you don't filter, you get drama, and they get disappointment. That's where that goes.
Yeah. Other thing came to mind when you were talking. There's an herbalist. I don't want to name names or anything like that. It's a positive story, but you talk about niches and letting your marketing do the talk for you. And or I don't want to put words in your mouth, but basically this particular herbalist specialized in this particular, we'll call it a symptom. And I knew that. And someone reached out to me. They said, Mason, do you know any herbalists that specialize in this thing? And I'm immediately, this person came to mind. I sent them their way. And then as a thank you, like you were talking about sending thank yous and stuff like that, she sent me all these tinctures and awesome body care products and stuff like that. And now forever in my mind, I'm like, oh, I love you even more. Like I already really appreciated you and admired you, but like that was such a nice touch she didn't have to do that.
I'll give you the opposite story of that. It was a marketer, Dan Kennedy, and he had an accountant, his bookkeeper, and he had referred this guy 12 of his clients, 12 high-paying, really good clients. And the accountant had never thanked him. And he said, I still use that bookkeeper because he's a great bookkeeper and I will never refer him any more business. And he said, I know it's petty.
Yeah.
He's great. He said, I fully understand this is an immature response and I cannot bring myself to send any more business to the guy.
What are you going to do? No, I don't blame him. I want to be respectful of your time. I was hoping maybe we could go over one more concept, if you don't mind. Cool. So in your multiple playlists on YouTube based around point of view marketing, you had a concept. Tell me something I don't know.
Oh yeah.
And I really liked that. For whatever reason, did you ever read the book Made to Stick by Chip and Dan Heath?
I have not, but I think I have it in storage at home. I never read it though.
Great book. In fact, I always say I read books. I actually listen to the audiobooks, but There you go. But there's a concept in it called the curse of knowledge. And basically, have you heard this concept before? Basically, it's when there was like a study done where they were telling people to tap a song with their finger, and then they would assume that the person listening to that person tapping the song would know exactly what it was, but that's because the person tapping already knows in their head. They're like, how do they not get it? But there's a lot of that stuff in daily life where you just go about living your life presuming people know what you're talking about, but you already have this life experience and built knowledge base. And so I was listening to you talk about tell me something I don't know. Then I was like, how do you kind of combine those two ideas? Like maybe it seems obvious to others, but I don't know if I'm making sense. But if you want to tell the audience what you meant by tell me something I don't know, and any comments on what I just said there.
Yeah, well, people have blind spots. So whenever somebody has some symptoms, they're experiencing a problem. It's not like they don't know anything. They see some reasons why they have it. There's some things that they see, and then there's the stuff they don't see. Your car is making a certain noise. You know it's about the engine, and maybe that's where your knowledge stops. The mechanic can lift up the hood and tell you what's actually going on, give you a diagnosis. That's why we pay them. We pay them for the blind spots. And so if you go to a workshop and they're repeating a bunch of stuff you already know,
right?
It's so frustrating. It's like, the fuck am I paying you for?
Right.
If you went to a mechanic and they said, cars, also known as automobiles, travel us around using the internal combustion engine and 4 wheels. How many wheels? 4. You'd be like, you need to shut up.
Yeah.
It just lands as condescending, a waste of time. When people are, you read a book, I don't know if you've had the misfortune, or you go to a webinar and it's come learn these success secrets, and it's all this stuff you've heard a million times.
Right.
Nothing new. And it feels frustrating. So what people are wanting is tell me something I don't know. Yeah. Like my mom already told me this. She didn't charge me $50. Like, tell me something new. We want to know the thing that we don't know. We want to, at those moments, see our blind spots. And yes, we often, we assume people see more than they actually do. We assume that people have more, perspective than they do. We forget that we've been in this industry, in this field for so long. And a lot of things that seem painfully obvious to us are absolutely not obvious to them. So sometimes we have to really slow way down and step back to a bigger vantage point. And because, again, the confused mind says no. And this happens all the time in industries where there's a certain industry jargon. There's all these acronyms that fly around. And if you're talking like that in front of people, you lose them. And, we want to aim for like grade 7, that level of language. No big words. Keep it really simple. I mean, could we use big words? We could. Can we use the jargon? Well, yes, it's more specific, but it will probably confuse people. So it's important, when people are in pain, there's 3 things that people need. The first thing is empathy. Just, man, that sounds hard. Yeah. Second thing they need is context. And third is guidance. But the context piece is the thing, because suffering is terrible enough, but not knowing why you're suffering, that's terrible. That's the unbearable piece. So they're coming to us because they don't know why they're in pain. They don't know why they have these symptoms. And they want to hear the thing that they haven't heard before. And if we don't have anything they haven't heard before, it's time to really reconsider what business you're in, or if you should be. There should be stuff that we see that they don't see. If somebody comes to my workshop and they leave and they say, yeah, I've heard all that before, it just means I didn't filter well enough somehow. If I started getting that feedback a lot, I'd want to, okay, what do I actually know? I got to reach people who are much more neophyte in their learnings on these things. Yeah, it's important. What is it your people don't see that if they saw it, it would change everything? What's the thing that your people are blind to that because they're blind, they can't get off island A? What are they missing when they're looking at their problem? What is that absent understanding, the fugitive knowledge that if it were there, they could make the shift? That's what we share. And I mean, people have different opinions on this. That's the stuff I give away for free. Take your very best stuff on that and just give that away for free, because this is what builds the trust. And they're not really just paying you for the knowledge anyways. I mean, yes, they want to know, tell me something I don't know. But the reason they want that, it doesn't mean that as soon as they hear that, then they go solve the problem. They probably still need handholding and help and support and a community and the occasion to do the work and help with translating whatever it is into their life. They're still probably going to need that too. Yeah.
Just to toot your horn, I feel like the very nature of your work is exposing us hippies to this whole concept of doing ethical marketing and ethical business. And, just by the sheer work that you're doing, by default, you're going to be doing that. You're exposing to us all to new ideas and ways of looking at it.
Thank you. I hope so.
Absolutely. Well, this has been amazing, Tad. Thank you for taking an hour with us. And again, that's marketingforhippies.com. Highly recommend you check out the YouTube channel as well. You could even search Apple Podcasts or Spotify for all the different interviews Tad's done with various different podcasts over the years. Wide ranging. I wanted to say that about you and your work too. It sounds like you have lots of different inputs from, like, say, I heard you practice like improv and magic and all that other shit. So it sounds like you're getting all these different ideas to put forth in the world this unique offering. So really appreciate that. Did you have any like final words or anything before we wrap up and get out of here?
No, I enjoyed this time. If you ever want me to come back, let me know. I'd be happy to. Thank you for what you're doing. Here actually there is a last thought. Just it's my incredible thanks to everyone out there who's doing the herbalism work. I read a good chunk of a book a couple of years ago called Rockefeller Medicine, and it's about the history of the American Medical Association and the role of the Rockefellers in it. And G.K. Chesterton, I think it was, he had a line where he made the distinction that there are many ideas that they're never disproven, they're just defeated. And that seems to me what happened with the American Medical Association and this Rockefeller pharmaceutical medicine is it defeated the acupuncturists, the herbalists, the homeopathists, but they never disproved it. The Flexner report and all that, for those who know. And so, and Wendell Berry, he had a line where he said, it's not too hard to imagine that one day the dividing lines of society will come between those who want to live as a machine and those who want to live as a creature. And this work around plant medicine is so important because that's how we live as a creature. We need this so desperately. And I know right now the restrictions coming in Canada and in other places, the insane crackdown, the madness that you're all enduring. And so to all of you who are bootlegging it and doing it on the black market and on the underground and will continue to, you just have my deep thanks and admiration that we just cannot let them take our medicine away from us. It's a war on indigenous folk medicine. And I'm just so grateful to everyone who's on the front lines of that in the various ways, visible and invisible, tending to the seeds of all of this and keeping this knowledge alive. Thank you so much. You have my incredible gratitude for keeping this alive.
Amen. And more goosebumps. What a fantastic way to wrap up the show. Really appreciate it. Tad Hargrave, marketingforhippies.com. And we will see y'all in the next episode of the HerbRally Podcast. Take care. Hey everyone, this is Mason with HerbRally. Thanks so much for watching today's video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and also go ahead and subscribe. We come out with new herbal content each and every week. If you didn't know, HerbRally also lists Herbalism events. We list Herbalism events chronologically. We list them also by state. So you can just go ahead and search
by Oregon or Wisconsin or wherever you live, you can find out what herbalism events are happening in your neck of the woods. We also list herbalism events, virtual herbal events. So if you can't make it to an in-person conference or plant walk, we list lots of virtual events as well. To find out more, you could go to herbrally.com/events or herbrally.com/virtual. But if you can help it, I would highly recommend trying to go to an herbalism conference. Those are some of the best learning experiences I've ever had, and that's where you can find different herbal teachers, and then maybe you could perhaps take their apprenticeship. But yeah, just do what you can. Get out there and learn about the herbs, like yarrow, dandelion, corn, all the above, like all the medicinal herbs. And we'll see you out there. Hope to see you at an herb conference. All right, bye.